Welcome back to Creating Dementia Solutions. It's a Miles for Memories program. I'm Richard Pyatt. Glad you found us here or wherever you found us. We're on YouTube, we're a podcast, and we're on Access Vision. So we're all over the place. Happy that you found us wherever you have. Make sure you follow, like the Miles for Memories Facebook page so you're alerted when these episodes come available. You know, the telephone is not a new invention, but boy, oh boy, are we using it in ways to connect more than ever, right? But one of our local programs under the auspices of Miles for Memories is a program that connects people by telephone who need the interaction. Pat Fosdick is here to talk to us about the telephone reassurance service. Hi, Pat.
Hello there. How are you, Richard?
I am well. Thank you for this opportunity. So let's talk about what telephone reassurance really means. I think it's inferred, but let's hear it for real.
Okay. Sure thing. First of all, probably it's something that's kind of unusual for a lot of people. We started this in 2012. It was through the Heart of the Village program, which was patterned after a national program called Village to Village. And our whole purpose was, it was pretty much individuals that work with seniors in the community, and to try to determine what is out there that really has not been fulfilled and there's maybe a need for. Telephone reassurance is kind of a interesting title. We thought about things like telephone buddies or a friendly caller or something like that. But the telephone reassurance program is somewhat a national program too. So we decided to stick with that title, and the basis of it is just to confer with people and communicate with people that are in need of social contact. So often somebody is homebound. It helps them sometimes in just remaining to be independent because they've got someone that they can converse with, as well as caregivers, which that's where Miles for Memories often comes into play. I was a caregiver for my husband for a long time, so I know that caregiving can be undaunting, and if you've got somebody you can just kind of confer with, just let things go with and say, you know, this is what I'm dealing with today, and just let them listen to you, because that's really all you need. So we started this with the agencies in the community. That's how we receive our caller recipients. They come to us. First of all, let me just say that we say to seniors, don't talk to people, you know, they're going to call you, don't talk to them.
Oh boy, that's right.
Yeah, you don't want to give them information. So the referral to us usually comes through a family member, a physician, a doctor, or a lawyer, or someone that has some information that they feel is going to help that individual be able to converse with people out in the community. We had one instance where someone was in rehab, and they were discharged to the home, but the only provisions that were there were that there was some contact on a daily basis with this individual. So telephone reassurance came into play with that. So that person had that contact. You'd say, how are things going? We would most generally, if there seemed to be a problem, refer back to the rehab agency and the physician and say, yeah, things are going okay, you know, or they seem to have a little bit more pain today than they did yesterday when we talked with them. So, yeah.
That's very interesting. So there's a lot of angles here, but let's make sure I understand what you're talking about. So someone who has a lack of social interaction can be on a telephone list, and a volunteer from Telephone Reassurance will call them on a certain schedule and interact with them.
Right, right.
So maybe the interaction is the basis of it. And if we talk about that alone, that makes a difference for them, doesn't it?
Right.
But you raise a really interesting point about how seniors and the rest of us are told, be careful who you talk to on the phone and
Right.
what you tell them. So obviously this has to have been vetted by someone whom they trust and who is in a position of prominence with them. But once we get past that, now the interaction is happening. And talk a little bit, Pat, about the difference that makes in their disposition and their life.
Oh, right. Yeah, that is interesting. I've got a lady that I call, and invariably she'll answer the phone, and you can tell that she's thinking, this is going to be a robocall, right? You know, because it's,
You hear it in her voice.
hello. And I say, you know, hi. They'll answer whatever her name is, and she'll go, and I'll say, it's Pat Fosdick with Telephone Reassurance. Oh, hi, you know, and immediately she just blossoms out. And hardly ever do I have to say anything because she is so full of conversation.
Been just waiting for your call.
Just waiting for that opportunity.
So imagine that. She's been anxious to tell you things that have been happening.
Right.
You've become a friend.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's gone even further than that sometimes with our callers. There's actually been a connection there where, oh yeah, you know, I'm from Bronson and you're from Bronson, so why don't I come and pick you up someday and we'll go down to Bronson, you know? It's really gone sometimes beyond just telephone reassurance kind of contact.
Really have made a friend.
Yeah, it's really delightful. It's very interesting how that can materialize. And I might mention to you too, we were talking about identification, and we've got a new individual that was referred over to us, and she's in an AFC home. So when I talked with the AFC providers, they have put my name into her phone, into her cell phone. So now she knows when I call, you know, that it's going to be me and not a robo. Yeah.
Yes. Obviously, a lot of us are still using landlines, and
Yeah.
even if a number comes up on a screen, it's hard to know who
Right,
that might be.
right.
How long does this go on, and how often are the calls made, just generally speaking?
Sure. There's lots of choices. It's really dependent upon the need. Sometimes, as we mentioned with the rehab person, we didn't really need to be with that person for very long because they were eventually off and on their own. So it was probably 3 months that we called her. But a lot of times it's just an indefinite kind of situation where people need to have a continuous call. And it doesn't have to be every day, and quite often it's not every day. So it could be 2 to 3 times a week, could be once a week, but it's just dependent upon what their needs are, how comfortable they, and how, you know, they might interact with other people, so they don't not necessarily need to have us. Like maybe a daughter says, yeah, I call her every day except for this day and this day. If you could fill in those days, then, you know, that would work for me and for her. Yeah.
I would imagine, and you started to allude to this in the beginning of our conversation, that this person has a list of things they're anxious to tell you, but among that list of things might be some needs with which they need help, and they're going to tell you that. Isn't
That's
that right?
correct. That is correct. Yes, there are times when they've got a leaky faucet, and it's, you know, I don't know what to do about this, and I can't really afford a repairman. So, you know, we have agencies out there, particularly Carewell Services, and we have a contact source at Carewell. So the caller will say, and you know, person at Carewell, I'm referring them over to you. This is why I'm referring them over to you. Sometimes it's hard for them even to make the call. So I'll say to the Carewell person, could you call so-and-so, because I'm not sure that they're feeling comfortable in calling you. And so that kind of exchange goes on too.
And you've now made a connection that solves a problem that they might not have been able to solve.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah.
So who are the callers, and how do you become a caller? I would imagine you need help with that.
Oh, we always are delighted to have people volunteer to call. And I would say as a caller, because I do call once a month, you get as much satisfaction and gratification as the person at the other end. So it turns out to be something that you feel very comfortable and happy about doing. So what we do is if someone wants to be a caller, and certainly we would hope that somebody would want to be a caller, we first interview them, and then we have to do, of course, a background check with them. And then we train them in dementia. So we talk to them about the different kinds of dementia, how to communicate with somebody that might have dementia, or how to identify maybe that person is in the throes of going into dementia. We also do elder abuse training for them. Again, it doesn't happen hardly ever, but at the same time, it's good to know how to detect that. When you're out in a facility particularly, there may be issues that you can help them to overcome with situations. So,
Boy, you just stirred up a bunch of thoughts about all of that. But think about that a person who's receiving a call from telephone reassurance may find that this person with whom they speak is the only person they can tell, I'm having a problem. Or maybe they don't tell them.
right.
And now this person who's calling has some acumen that they've learned and they can follow to detect that.
That's correct.
And that's part of the training.
That is part of the training. It really has to be part of the training in today's world. Yes.
I'm not asking for specifics, but can you call to mind situations in which that training has become useful?
I actually honestly have to say that we've not had a situation of that nature,
Okay.
but there have been a couple of times when that person at the other end of the phone thought there was a situation. And actually it was very easily solved and resolved. So, but the fact is that training was there to alert them and to help them in how to make that determination that maybe there wasn't something there, but there needed to be action taken just to verify that there wasn't a dire situation.
They were probably glad to be wrong, but
Right.
yeah.
Well, you're right and wrong at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, that's incredible. And as you pointed out, someone who is in that role of making that call, it makes their day too, because now you've made someone else's day.
Right. Correct.
So the Miles for Memories connection, you talked about how maybe the caller is going to pick up on maybe some signs of dementia. And what happens then? Is that an immediate Miles for Memories referral? How does that work?
Usually we talk to the family members because often the family members may be detecting a little bit, but not to the extent that they should detect it. So then that makes them more aware, and then they can take the action that's probably is needed at that point in time.
Yeah.
And let me just kind of talk a little bit about the caregiver too.
Yes.
Because that's a very important role, and it's also can be a very lonely role. And for myself, I know there was a lot of times that I didn't share with my family members things that, because I didn't want to bother them, I didn't want to disturb them, but I could share that with somebody else, and they weren't burdened like my family might be burdened if I did that. So that also helped me to become unburdened to a certain degree.
Sure.
And continue to function as a care provider, which you need to have that release there to be able to do that.
Well, think about that too, the idea that a person who maybe is a spouse who is now the main caregiver, and if there's no one else close by, now this telephone reassurance could help them have, as you said, some interaction that's useful for them, but maybe it also is the opportunity for that caller to realize that there's there's some services that they could be connected to.
Well, that's true as well. Yes, right.
So how does a person identify themselves as interested in being a telephone reassurance caller?
Okay, well, let me give you the telephone number. And this, let me explain that this is message only. So
Okay.
when you call, you're not going to connect with any individual. You're just going to leave a message saying what your interest is or your desire is.
Very good.
So it's a local number. It's 269-963-0746.
269-963-0746 to indicate an interest, leave a message in becoming a telephone reassurance volunteer.
Correct.
And make a difference in the lives of someone, of others who would be glad to take your call.
We really try to pick those messages up, within 24, no later than 48 hours.
Okay, good to know.
So
Pat Fostick, what a neat story and a great program. Thank you.
you're welcome. Thanks for asking.
Creating Dementia Solutions, a Miles from Memories podcast and program right here where you are. Miles from Memories Michigan is on Facebook. Click the like on that so you're aware when these episodes come available. I'm Richard Pyatt. Take care.